As I said, Moab powers the top systems. In fact, 40% of the top 10 run Moab. 33% of the top 100 cores, or by cores, run Moab. And this is a focus for us. We aren't going to lose this focus. For those of you who might not be in the top 100, you say, well, how's that going to help me? It's going to help you enormously because, as we just saw, were these more leading environments and larger environments of today is exactly where you're going to be in a couple of years. That's just the pace of technology. And so by making sure that we meet their needs, we'll meet your needs as well as we go forward. So we heard some things last year at MoabCon. We did listen. We try hard to listen. Or in fact, we're going to have a listening session here today after we present our product roadmap. And I think it's important that we have a mechanism and stay open to listening to our customers. And we have a process. I think Adaptive has always listened to its customers. What we haven't always had is a process that ensured that feedback got into product roadmaps in a consistent way. And I hope you'll see that as Lane talks. One of the other things we heard was Torque. Torque is an open source product. And in many ways, when I first got here, we treated it very much like a community-sourced open source product. And we're very grateful for those of you who do participate with that. But one of the things you made loud and clear was Adaptive. You have to take the lead on Torque. You actually do most of the development. It's essential that in terms of quality and reliability, you treat it like any other product. That doesn't mean commercialize it, just in terms of the development process and the quality and reliability. And make sure that goes into Torque so that we can count on it. Because if Torque isn't working quite right, guess what? Our HPC environment isn't working quite right. And we heard that. We heard it loud and clear. So we put a huge focus on quality and reliability. You'll see some of that when Brady, our VP of Engineering, speaks. We've done a lot of work in terms of, we use now an agile methodology, Scrum. We have Scrum Masters. We have people who are fully trained. We've added QA. We've added thousands of nodes from Rackspace so that we can do at least some scalability testing in-house and really tried to make a difference there. We also heard some feedback about MoabCon. I made a little joke about Provo, but we heard definitely that it wasn't the most exciting venue in the world. And we thought we could do better. After all, Utah is a wonderful, beautiful place. There are many great places to be. I'm thrilled with the efforts that our marketing team has put together and been able to select this location, which I think is inspiring, which is part of what we're trying to do. When you look outside, we want you to be inspired. The other thing we heard was, hey, we're glad to hear a little bit about cloud, but not so much. We're mostly HPC guys, and we really want to hear in-depth discussions about HPC and more deep dives into the product. And then in the evening, let's have activities that are a little more interesting than what we could do in Provo. So here's what we've heard from you. We've put in place a mature release process, and you'll see this on Lane's presentation as I go through. This is really important. I think it's important that customers can count on when releases are going to come out. And I'll walk through that at a very high level, and Lane will walk through it in more detail on an individual release basis. There's some philosophies behind that. Secondly, you ought to be able to tell what kind of release it is from the version number. And, I will say, mea culpa, when we released 6.1, which was actually a very major release in the HPC market, we probably shouldn't have called it 6.1, because many of you just downloaded it thinking this is just a minor upgrade. Then you found out after the fact, oh no, it wasn't. There was a lot of stuff in 6.1. We need to do a better job at signaling to you in advance what our releases are about, and the numbers ought to reflect what kind of release it is, and we will do that. As I said, we've added a lot of automated testing. Our goal is to have 100% automated testing, certainly for regression testing. And this is huge because that way when we fix something once, it stays fixed because we build a test for it. And at the same time as we're building our code, we can make sure that we're testing for it. We haven't always had that. And I know some of you have felt like guinea pigs, and that at times you were our testers. And we're still going to do a little bit of that because we are going to have a beta testing program. But our goal is to have already done the majority of testing during the process. We've also been beefing up our UI with user-centric design. Our marketing effort is beefed up. We actually have a launch process. So you'll see press releases about our product. We'll actually talk to analysts and to press and give them a feel as to why it is we're doing what we're doing. And that way you'll know as well. And that'll give us a higher industry profile. And as you can see by this event, we've been working on a better MoabCon. So my thanks especially to Jill King and the marketing team and those folks you saw out there at the front desk. Great job for putting this together. Thank you. So let's talk, this is very high level. Lane is going to go through this in more detail. I wanted to show a little bit of the past as well, so you can get a bit of a compare and contrast. So at the beginning of 2011, we came out with version 6.0, very important release, had a multi-threading overhaul, had checkpointing via database, important release, and then a really big release that added Moab scalability, started pushing towards that million-plus jobs, caching and performance. This was a significant release. Unfortunately, as I said, we called it 6.1. We probably should have called it 6.5 or 7.0 or something else to give a little better designation. The other thing we realized, and you guys helped us realize this at MoabCon last year, is that we also needed, in order to get the scalability, we needed to bring Torque into the fold. And so now as part of Moab development, there is a Torque team. It's integrated with the Moab development effort. Again, that doesn't mean Torque is going commercial. It's going to stay open source, no change. But what we're doing is just putting far more scrutiny and reliability on that effort. And the real goal was to get it scalable so that it would match the Moab scalability. And we also added enhanced stability as well. There was a lot of stability work done with what ultimately became known as 7.0, released a couple of months ago. And now as we look forward, by the way, we called that internally a code name of the Fulton release. And as we look forward, one of the things you're going to see is that we're going to use code names for the releases until we get a little closer to the release date. And then we'll pick the version number that best reflects what that release actually is, so that we can signal to you, is this in fact a fairly modest incremental update, or is this in fact something major with new architecture and new capabilities? So in Q2 of 2012, we will be releasing Evans. This will not be a major release. We haven't picked the version number yet, but I'll be shocked if it's not either 7.1 or 7.2, just to give you an idea and some way of signaling what it is. It will have topology awareness. It will have user enhancements. There's an important reason. You could say, why are you doing a release right after you just finished the Fulton release in Q1? Are you going to do a release every quarter, adaptive computing? The answer is no. If you look in our past, we were doing releases at some of the worst times of the year. Look at this release right here, right smack in the middle of the summer. Anybody who's been in software knows that that's a time to avoid if at all possible. Now, sometimes it is not possible to avoid, and time constraints make it so you just have to do it. In certain markets, like commercial markets, the consumer market, it's actually a great time because you want to be ready for back to school. We're not in that kind of market. In the middle of summer really isn't a great time to do a release. So we're trying to set up a cadence of releases as we go forward that you can count on. And that means we'll be doing releases in the spring and the fall. That will be our normal release cadence. Might we change it at some particular point for a reason? Sure, it's possible. But by getting into a regular release cadence, we can start slotting those requests that you have and other advances that we're trying to make into the product into the appropriate time frame for that product. And I think it's very important to see that. So with Evans, we'll add the topology awareness, the user enhancements, and we have a release called Gatling. By the way, these are all inventors. So right now our code names all reflect various inventors. In Q4 of 2012, and that'll be in the fall, we will add the SMP, SMT enhancements and the next generation hardware support. There'll be a number of other things that Blaine will show you. That's not all that's in there. This is just to kind of give you a feel. But I think it's really important to understand what we're trying to do here by having a normal release cycle. We won't ever do more than one major release in a year. So in general, you can kind of look at one of the releases will probably be fairly minor, and one will be more significant. It may not always be a .0. In some cases, we may say it's fairly major, and we'll elect to call it a .5 kind of release in